Chapter 14, Leadership. In this chapter, I'll talk about the biggest lessons I've learned, building culture, and why repeating your mistakes is sometimes a good thing. I suspect the topic I will most want to talk about when I get to the end of my career will be leadership. It's a skill that came naturally to me at a young age. Yet, as proud as I am of my leadership skills and effectiveness, I still work on it every day. And it's an aspect of myself where I feel I'm continuously growing. This chapter allows me to thank my employees whose smarts, talents, and hard work always push me to raise the bar and hone my abilities. They have afforded me the chance to take my leadership skills to a much higher level than I ever realized was possible. My philosophy on leadership is very simple. Everything in business stems from the top. Whether you're the boss of 2 people in a 3-person team or the head of a Fortune 500 company. And everything that happens in a company is 100% the CEO's fault. After all, the CEO is the person who puts people in a position to make good or bad decisions. It's no accident that when some companies change their CEO, they go from winners to losers or vice versa. It is the most important variable for success in running a business. Being a leader is a greater challenge than ever because of social media. It has completely changed the nature of the job. You used to be able to, no, leaders were expected to talk from the top of a mountain. You'd make your proclamation and not worry much about hearing anything back, certainly not in real time. But now that our communication channels have given everyone a voice, whatever you say from on high may invite a reaction. You might get it in-house, or you might get it from the masses. That's proving to be a challenging adjustment for some leaders, especially those further along in their career. The only effective way to truly lead is to practice and model the behavior you want to see in others. That's why I once drove across state lines in a blizzard during the height of Christmas to rush a delivery of a single case of white Zinfandel to a customer whose order was delayed. I know my team is watching me. I can't tell them to go the extra mile if I'm not willing to do it myself. If the DNA of any business stems from the top has to ensure that its values, beliefs, and attitudes trickle down to shape the culture and encourage a productive, innovative, creative, and even happy environment. One hallmark of a good leader is to ask questions. It's the biggest way to show your team you recognize they're more than just cogs on a wheel. Hey, how are things going? How's the new baby? What are you excited about lately? Do you have any ideas you'd like to discuss? It's also the best way to solve problems. Don't ever start offering solutions before asking tons of questions. Why are we 2 weeks behind? What do you think about this issue? What do you need from me? And then for God's sakes, listen. Be compassionate. Be fair. Hire people who embody those characteristics too. Celebrate success. By the way, I'm bad at that. One of the things I need to work on is celebrating success. I know everybody who's listening right now from VaynerMedia, we get big new businesses. I'm like, yeah, move forward, move forward. So celebrate success. I'm saying that for myself. And we'll talk more about that later. And when you have to reprimand, hark back to all the times you screwed up and remember that those mistakes have everything to do with who you are today. Great leaders aren't born, they're made. I think this chapter offers a lot of value. After listening to it, look in the mirror and think about what you do well and how you can do it even better. Leadership needs to be a big pillar in your development if you have ambitions of building businesses. The answers you may hear here are the secret sauce to any success I've enjoyed in my career.
Hi, everybody. This is Phil Rosenthal, the creator of Everybody Loves Raymond and the host of I'll Have What Phil's Having, a food and travel show from PBS, available everywhere now. I'll be reading the next 10 questions for the AskGaryVee book. Thanks for having me. What are the most important lessons your father taught you about building a business?
I think a lot of you that have been following me for a long time are getting sick of this, but I'm going to do it again. I just spit in my hand, and I'm shaking it in the air. And what it represents is word is bond. Very early on, my dad got a hold of me. I was 13, 14, 15. And, he knows his son. Even though we didn't spend a lot of time up to that point, he quickly realized when I was in the store that I was very capable of being full of shit. And my dad is an incredible man. Honor and respect and truth are the pillars of his life. As a matter of fact, I feel bad for my dad because if you lie to him, you're no longer in his inner circle, which means he has 0 people in his inner circle. It's just the way it is. He's wired that way. He's from the old country. It matters. And boy, did I have the perfect dad after having the perfect mom, which is why I want to write the book, Perfectly Parented, because it just worked out for me, because all the charisma and all the self-esteem and all that good stuff, all that baloney was built in at 13. And then here came my dad, and he was able to shave the edges. I mean, it's unbelievable when I take a step back and think about how unsuccessful I would be if my dad wasn't part of my equation, because I would have been that lowest common denominator. Hey, by the way, for a lot of you listening, it's why when you first caught wind of me, that first video, that first public speaking engagement, you were like, I don't know about this guy. It's because it's there. It is there. But boy, did I get lucky, because my dad taught me my word would last longer than any feeling I would make anybody feel for a few minutes. And that has saved my butt so many times. It's why I'm reading this instead of outsourcing it to somebody else, because I can make more money. Like, it just changed so much for me. So the lesson my dad taught me was truth and honor and respect in business. Practically, just so everybody knows, my dad knew I was capable very early on, around 16, 17. He kind of, quote unquote, allowed me to start buying wine for the store. And he said something to me. I remember coming to him and I said, oh, I think I bought too much of this. And he said, you got to eat it. I don't care what you do with it. He didn't want me to drink it. I think he wanted me to eat it, eat the bottles, because you're not returning it. You're not going back on your word. And my entire career, I did not go back on my word on a commitment, on a buy. And that made people respect me, and that made people really want to do business with me, and it meant so much to me. And so the truth is, a lot of you know I don't talk about having any other business mentors, and I often talk about that my dad didn't teach me that many things. The truth is I came with a lot of natural ammo, but boy, he taught me the most important thing.
How do you change a firmly established culture into one that genuinely cares about the customer?
Well, if you're lucky enough to be the CEO or the president or the person making decisions, it's actually quite easy. You fire the people that don't believe in it, and you hire more people that do believe in it. This is back to everything that I talked about earlier. CEO, that's where it starts and ends. You're in complete control. And it's about valuing this over other things. If this is really what you care about, and you care about short-term profits or short-term sales a little less, that allows you sometimes to fire the person that's driving success in the short term, but they're a cancer either internally or externally long-term. If you happen to not be the CEO, it comes down to courage. Do you have the courage to go talk to HR or to the CEO? And by the way, this is me now pandering to the VaynerMedia employees to have the courage to come and see me, even though I tell them all the time to come and see me. I know that they don't. Do you have the courage to come and speak your mind? And are you sure that you're grounded in not your best vested interest? Are you not saying Rick's bad because you want Rick's job? You want a couple more bucks, or you think Rick knows that you stink and you want to get him out before he gets you out? If you're coming from the right place and you go up the ladder and communicate, there's only one way to change culture. It's to change the people that are driving the culture. And so you've got to recognize that people are what make up the culture. You've got to pick and choose and hire for it. I'm not crippled in hiring for it. Actually, we don't think we can figure out if somebody's right in the hiring. I think too many people think they're good at it. I think I read people extremely well, but I've been wrong so much in my career. I think what you need to do is let people live, and then if you don't like what you're seeing from them, then you cut it out. And so I think it's about making that your religion. As a matter of fact, I was dealing with something on text this morning about a highly, highly productive employee who I think is up to not such great things culturally wise, and that usually is the first move towards exiting the door.
Who are your idols or the people who inspire you? Did you ever have a mentor?
I just talked about this, obviously, referenced it with my dad's question. Obviously I look up to my parents. It's as simple as that. There really is nobody else. To some degree, my dad is my mentor. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening, which I don't think you are. I know how you roll. But I would tell you that the people I admire or inspire me are great all-time storytellers. And I would say that Vince McMahon and Walt Disney are probably the two people that always stick in my head in these questions. When you think about Disney, to think about some guy drawing a mouse and that starts that kind of empire, it's cool. It's just pure storytelling. And I'm kind of a kid, so the fact that it's kind of kid-oriented, I like that. So no question, that's an easy one. I think Vince McMahon is probably the one that hits me a little bit harder. I'll tell you why. Grew up in a family business. His dad was a regional wrestling organization, and he, through his ambition and audacity, said, I'm taking over the country, taking over the U.S., which was sacrilege. Everybody had their regions if you're a wrestling fan. It was very unfair what Vince McMahon did to try to make the WWF the national player. There was an unspoken rule amongst the promoters. Gagne, I'm in Minnesota, and, this guy's in Texas, and Von Erich. It was really interesting to me. Again, kind of going against his dad's wishes, not that I did that often, but I had to quite a bit in my career. the storytelling. I mean, getting every 8 to 12-year-old that's around 40 years old right now to care about Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, and then build an entertainment business, a traveling business, a TV business, a media empire. I enjoy that. I actually am surprised that I've gotten to 40 without having my animated character. I would be stunned. Gonna make a prediction here. I'd be stunned if I get to have another 40 years of my career, if I don't die premature, if I have 40 more years of business. It would be stunning to me if I don't build a business around some make-believe thing, because I believe in it so much, and that's why I associate with those two specifically.
As a business leader, what's the one thing that keeps you up at night?
The health and well-being of my friends and family, my key employees, and then every employee as a whole. To me, I feel as a CEO and a business leader that I'm in control of everything. That if I lose, I deserve to lose, and that doesn't cripple me. I love the game. I respect the game more than I care about my own well-being, which makes it very easy for me not to worry about things. What I worry about is things that I can't control. The number one thing that I think I can't control is the health and well-being of myself, my 10 closest family members, and then my 20 top executives. That inner circle of 31 people, woof, do I think about that every day? What would happen if XYZ got sick or died? Well, obviously I start with myself, then it all tumbles. But, I think at some level, that's it. I spend zero time on competitors. It's unbelievable. Zero. I literally don't even think about what anybody else is doing. I spend a little bit time on market conditions. Will the stock market crash? Will the economy? Truth is, I've done so well in bad times because I'm a wartime general. The thing I really kind of always drill down to is the thing I can't control.
Do you ever complain?
Do I ever complain? My mom once told me, the biggest compliment my mom ever gave me was only a couple years ago, where she said, the thing I really respect about you is you don't complain. And so I'm sure I do, in my weird kind of way, right? Backwards, backhanded, hidden way to complain. But boy, do I not like it, and boy, do I not do it. And I'm sure the reason this was asked on the show was because I just don't talk about it. When I go into a bad place, when there's something to complain about, I actually become Yoda and go into a cave and just hide and stay with myself, because I have no interest in deploying my negative energy against anybody around me. It's my thing. I'm very proud of this. And I have family members, and I have executives, and I have friends who are completely the opposite, are not emotionally strong, especially when you're a positive energy like me, need others to kind of lift them up. I don't think complaining has any value. I really, I love time. Time is the asset that is my religion. And complaining just wastes time. It is what it is. If there was anything I'd like to complain about, it's the fact that the Patriots football empire is completely predicated and based on getting lucky by taking a quarterback in the 6th round of the NFL draft, right? That's not skill. They're not a great franchise. They got lucky. If they thought he was the best, they would have taken him in the 1st round. Suckers. So that's worth complaining about. Silly things that don't matter. That's where I like to complain. I don't complain about real stuff. If there's a problem, first and foremost, it's my fault because I'm the leader of everything. And for me to complain is a hypocrisy. I created the issue. So I just don't want to be a hypocrite. And so I keep it to myself. And so it's funny, my little guy right now, Xander, he's complaining his ass off about everything. And I remember being a crybaby too until I was about 5 or 6. I think I crybabied and complained about everything so much in the first 6 years of my life that I got it all out of my system. And at this point, I just don't have it in me. And I can tell you right now, it is the single least attractive thing in the world. A complainer sucks. I hate complainers. Like, do something about it. If you hate your job, quit. Go start another job. Like, blaming others, complaining about other things, it's just a loser mentality. I really believe that. I don't know what else to say. I think you can feel it in my voice. Like, I even hate this. Like, I hate it. The answer is, with all my heart, I try not to complain.
In what situations are you most comfortable?
Chaos. I love chaos. I like music blasting when I'm working. I always yell at everybody at VaynerMedia to turn up the noise when I'm walking through the halls. I like chaos. I don't like when it's quiet or calm. I don't like being in this booth right now. Thank God I've got 2 others hanging with me. They're helping me so much. Like, I'm looking at them as I read this. I don't know if that's a common practice, but I need that. Like, I need chaos. I love public speaking because it's chaotic. I love live TV. Everybody's like, wow, I'm an improv kind of guy. I like when stakes are high. I want to take the last shot in our pickup basketball games. I just love the action. It's kind of like gambling and those things. That's why I like those things. I like that. So I'm most comfortable when it's chaotic. A deadline's coming. We're not ready. My desk is messy. Everything's wrong. I just love that. I need the action. I need the chaos. That's my comfortable zone.
If you could teach everyone in the world one thing you've learned, what would it be?
This is interesting because this probably speaks to why I've had success in social media marketing. And before that, digital marketing, email marketing. The answer to this question is something I haven't talked about a lot. And for the most hardcore fans that have consumed so much, I'm smiling right now because you're about to get something. So take it. It's that depth matters more than width. And you've seen me talk about impressions not mattering in marketing. It's sales. It's about open rates and click-through rates instead of how many people are on your email list. It's about the quality time you spend with your children, not how many hours you're in the house for your work-life balance. It's, do you have 6 best friends or do you have 19 best friends that aren't really any of your best friends? It's just depth over width. And this is something I think so many people struggle with. They don't understand the value of that, especially when it comes to business. And so in business, way too many of you care right now how many followers you have on Instagram or Twitter, right? Or how many impressions you get on your website, or how many emails you've signed up on your newsletter, or how many potential customers you have. The problem is that is not the proxy. You don't pay your bills with how many potential customers you have. You pay them with the actual customers you have. And so I've been able to win on that, right? I have a small base relative to so many others, but I sell a lot more books because I've gotten all of you to care so much. So when I always beat out, and hopefully on this one too, real celebrities that are on TV every day on the New York Times bestselling list, everyone's like, what? How did that happen? Easy, because they just have width. Right? People may see them every morning on the morning show, but they don't care about them as much as they care about me because I'm actually interacting. I'm engaging. And the same thing, what's the ROI of social media? A lot of people talk about that. Do you know that if you sell very expensive stuff, you can make the ROI happen very quickly? If you sell a $6 million home and make the commission on that because you engaged with somebody on Twitter that was going to an open house, you can justify the ROI the whole year of all the other stuff you're doing on Twitter. So for me, it's simply depth versus width. Too many people caught up in metrics that don't matter, and they get taken away from the one thing that does matter, which is closing the deal.
How do you stay constantly motivated?
We talked about gratitude in another chapter. I would say it's self-awareness, gratitude, empathy. I know I'm lucky, and I know a lot of you just got mad because a lot of you get mad when I say I'm lucky because everyone wants to say that it's not luck. But, it's hard for me to not recognize that I was born in the Soviet Union and that I was born during a time where the U.S. and Israel teamed up to get Jews out of Russia and I got out. I have to recognize that I got amazing parents. I have to recognize that I'm a white male. I have to recognize these things. Now, am I going to downplay the fact that I've worked my face off for the last 25 years? Absolutely not. Am I going to downplay that millions, not tens of thousands, millions of people are born into better situations than me? Of course not. But I'm absolutely motivated by gratitude. It's just I know we just dealt with it in a chapter, but I got to give the real answer here. I've been put in a position to win with my DNA, with my environment. And honestly, at some level, there's maybe some level of guilt, right? I recognize that I've got this good thing. I look at my sister. I look at my brother. I'm sorry to diss you, AJ and Liz. I love you with all my heart. But I know I got something. I know I have something. And to not maximize that, I think of myself as an orange. To not squeeze the living crap out of that orange for every drop that I was given in a world where a lot of other people were given raisins, it just drives the shit out of me.
How do you keep others motivated?
Now, this one's even more interesting because obviously the last question is very personal me and it's going to be very personal you. I think this answer is far more universal. And by the way, before I get into this, the legend, Tommy Lasorda, baseball manager for the Dodgers for so many years, was the guy that asked the question on the show. So if you haven't seen that and you're a Dodgers fan, go back to that episode and check it out. For me, I do it by listening. I reverse engineer. I'm a reverse engineer. I keep others motivated by figuring out what motivates them. It's not super hard. It's the same way to placate to me, right? I'm pretty easy. If you really watch my behavior for the last 5 years, you can understand what gets me going. In book promotion mode, I want to sell books. Saying nice things about me works on me because I like compliments because my mom gave me so much. Competing with me gets me going. I'm pretty basic. I do that for everybody that I know. Everybody that works for me across 700 people, across 2 businesses, I try to get to know them. Are they motivated by money? Doesn't bother me. You want more money? God bless. Go do what you want to do. Are you motivated by title? Do you want to say to everybody that you're a vice president? Great. Are you motivated by work-life balance? Do you want to work in my organization, make enough money to keep you happy, but you get to go climb the Himalayas or surf with the sharks? Great. Are you motivated? what are you motivated by? Everybody's motivated by different things. And they're very cliche. They're actually quite easy. People want girls. Guys are simple. They want girls. They want money. By the way, girls want guys. And there's just a million things that are I think there's only 30, I've never done the work. And I'm sure there's books that have covered this way better than I can. I don't know how many there are, but I know there's not that many. More importantly, I don't care what they are. I just want to know what they are. Got it? I just want to know what you care about. And by the way, You're allowed to change it. I tell my best executives who I want to be with me for 40, 50 years, I'm like, look, this is what you're motivated today. You're going to start a family. A tragedy may happen. Something great might happen. You might win the lotto and leave. Like, I'm ready for it on an every second basis. Just like I talk about day trading attention is how I think about marketing. I'm day trading the emotional center of my executives and the people that I care about. Every day it's going to change. I need to be mentally prepared to feed them with what motivates them. And I'm not in the business of judging them. Too many people judge what motivates others. That's so stupid. It is what it is, and you need to reverse it to put both of you in your relationship in the best position to succeed. That's what I've done well. That's why my retention at the high levels is extraordinary. That's why my retention at VaynerMedia now is getting extraordinary even in the mid levels, because it's scaling. And it's all about one thing, using my ears instead of my mouth, not judging others, and working very hard to feed their motivation.
What advice would you give someone transitioning to a leadership role?
The first thing I tell a lot of my individuals when they transition is you are now playing a totally different game. You went from being a basketball player to a football player. It's a totally different game. Just because you were great at executing work, you are now, I kind of use the Mason architecture. Just because you're a great Mason and you can like really build an amazing building by putting brick by brick perfectly, nobody's done it better. For you to be the architect is a totally different game. It goes from IQ to EQ. It's not just about being smart anymore of your tactical duties. It's about having the emotional intelligence to lead, to understand how to motivate people, to have empathy. It takes a totally different skill set. And as a matter of fact, at this point in my career, I can pretty consistently tell when somebody's ready and not ready, and more importantly, who's going to be successful and not, because it is very black and white when I see it in the way they interact with others. It takes humility. One of the things I always tell people is, now that you're a manager, you work for them. And that's a big shift because a lot of people think that they're working for you. Oh, now I'm a leader. Now I get to tell them what to do. You want to be successful? You are now at their mercy. I am the bitch. And I'm willing to say that. The bitch. And I know that pisses people off, but I'm going to use it. The bitch of the employees. Like, I'm there for them. I am there for them. I am on their beck and call. That's what a great leader does. And when you transition into a leadership role, you need to understand that that is the move. And real quick, I want to say this because I know the bitch word has become a politically charged word. I think everybody knows where I stand on these things. I have no interest in upsetting anybody.
Hey guys, this is Stephanie Rule. I'm the managing editor and morning anchor on Bloomberg Television's morning show, Bloomberg Go. I'm a fan, a friend, an enthusiast for all things Gary Vee. I was introduced to Gary a couple years ago, and I would say I was jab, hooked on him from the start. How do you instill soul and swagger into a physical product you create?
This is not something that I've done a lot of my career, so I don't think I'm the best person to answer this. But as I've watched, whether it's Beats by Dre or the iPod or, what's going on with Under Armour right now or anything that I've ever seen, it's unbelievable how much of that comes from the creator of the product. Literally, it is a child. These products are children. The way you instill soul and swagger into a physical product is for that person that created it to have soul and swagger. And that's why so many big company product releases fail, because the person inventing it isn't necessarily driving it in the beginning. I see a lot of the best products in the world actually be created and then executed and then marketed and then operated for the first 5 years of their lives by the people that actually have the soul and swagger. And so when there's a disconnect between the person that invented it for GE or Procter & Gamble to the CEO, you have a disconnect. And it's hard to instill it because the creator, the inventor, is separated from that product. But when it's a child, when the GoPro founder invented it and used it for himself and then is operating that business, of course that product's going to have it, because it's absolutely the child physical version from that person. And so I think it's hard to instill. I think you might get lucky where you have a CEO that comes in and it was a connect. It's almost like, maybe it's like adoption, right? Maybe it is the perfect parent for that child. So I would say it's not impossible. I'm sure we've seen it. Nothing's popping in my head as I'm kind of ranting right now. But we've seen people turn around brands, Reebok, Nike, things of that nature. And so I think the best case scenario is it actually was there from the start.
Are there any common mistakes you repeat? Any tips on overcoming them?
You are talking to the wrong guy. I think I repeat all my mistakes. I don't know why I do it. I'm sure I've fixed a lot of things, but maybe that's not romantic as the thought of like repeating the same old thing. My core mistake is biting off more than I can chew. I try to like run 80,000 businesses at once. A lot of times I've done that multiple times in my career. I've got big eyes. I'm like the kid that comes to the candy store and leaves with a massive tummy ache because I ate way too much candy. I feel like I like my natural being, and so sometimes I try not to fix my mistakes on purpose. I don't really have any tips to overcome them. I think, to me, it's kind of like touching the fire. it comes down to your pain tolerance, meaning there's some mistakes that I'm sure I fixed, communication ones that I can think of right away now, that were so painful that I had to fix them right away. And there's others that are a nuisance, right? So I may be willing to still get splinters, and that's a mistake because it's a pain in the ass, but I don't want my finger chopped off. And so I would say that I don't think there's any advice to overcoming them. I actually think most of us just naturally overcome the ones that are the most painful. Now, some of us are gluttons for punishment and things of that nature. But the fact of the matter is I'm definitely in a place where I don't make radical changes on my mistakes. I think I kind of slowly get there after making them more than once. You know what? I think my self-confidence and ego almost forced me to make the same mistake twice because I'm baffled that it was a mistake in the first place. So I think after the second or third one, I finally start saying, okay, maybe I'm wrong in this issue. I think this is a very personal question. I just kind of wanted to expose the way I think about mistakes. And I also think some mistakes are good. Believe it or not, I'm a weird balance of the force kind of guy. I think that, you know, I almost wonder if I like having micro mistakes because I think subconsciously it keeps me away from massive mistakes. So I've never figured that out, and that could be a book down the line, but that's my answer.
Are you worried you may have created a Steve Jobs-esque reality distortion field around VaynerMedia?
I mean, look, there's been a lot of people that have talked about VaynerMedia as a cult and things of that nature. And to think about a Steve Jobs-like distortion field, like, I'm flattered by these questions. It speaks to the cult of personality. I get it. I'm not upset. I think some people try to put it into a negative light. I'm empathetic. I understand why people say that. The answer is probably yes and no, right? Like, look, I'm a charismatic, caring leader who's very opinionated and stubborn and successful and intuitive and believes in himself to the utmost. And so are there people that are hesitant to challenge me? Probably. And is it a byproduct of when a lot of people have challenged me on things that looked like they were going to be right, but I ended up being right because I play in the gray, not in the black and white? Probably too. Look, there's plenty of people that challenge me in my company. But when you know that the buck stops with you, you a lot of times make your decisions. What I like is that if I'm doing bad, if I'm making the wrong calls, if I'm letting them down, if I'm not listening, I just think the results would be that I think a lot more people would leave. There's a lot of alternatives to work than working at my company. And so I would say yes and no. I think that what makes me different than, let's say, a Steve Jobs-like character is like, I like kindness. I want to build a human empire. I like positivity and honey. And so maybe my distortion field is very real, but the reason I'm getting away with it is people like being around me and I'm nice. So that's why I'm trying to be self-aware right now and acknowledge that maybe it exists. But look, let me tell you something, and this is going to hurt people's feelings. Some people are just right more often. Like, I think some of these things happen because of results. We accept them in sports. You accept that Kobe and Jordan and LeBron are entitled and should take the last shot in the game. For some reason in business, we're in a little bit of a different place. It seems more egomaniac, and I think female leaders have it even worse, which really pisses me off, right? But I should be making the decisions by data, like results. I should be making these decisions. I have a much better track record. And so I think I've won a lot of equity with my dad, with my brother, with my business partners, with my investments, with my contemporaries by being historically correct. As a matter of fact, if you pay attention very closely, that is literally why this book is happening right now. It's why the AskGaryVee show works. It's why Daily V is happening. I want to be on the record because I've proven to myself over 25 years that I'm right a lot. And that's why this distortion field happens, because I should be making the decisions.
Do you prefer to be around people who are the same or different than you?
I think a lot of you know that I love to observe people, and I started paying attention to a couple of my friends, the way they were running their company. They were hiring people just like them, and they were hiring people that were inferior. This is good balance from the last question. I like the way we're laying this out. It made me look at myself. It was so glaring in these two people. I'm like, crap, am I doing that? And at some level, I think I was a little bit earlier in my career. I think I've fixed that tremendously in VaynerMedia compared to Wine Library. That being said, I want people intellectually that are different than me, because I don't think I'm that smart. Let's start with that. But emotionally, I think I'm a genius, and I want people to be exactly like me. So I want people to be motherly or fatherly. I want them to be emotionally intelligent. I want them to care. I want them to deploy 5149, which means give 51% to the other person. I want them to care about HR, lifetime value, keeping people forever, retention, happiness. I'm suffocated by negativity, so I can't have that around me. So I want people to be like me emotionally, but different than me, very different than me intellectually. Real quick, before I go to the next one, I just want to thank everybody because that was the best articulation on this issue in my life. And this answer will now become my standard answer going forward. And so that felt fun. And so I got some goosebumps. So I thought it'd be cool to thank you guys because guess what? You don't do audiobooks if nobody's listening.
If you were to tragically die today, how well would VaynerMedia do long-term without its CEO and founder? Have you been satisfied with the Wine Library's performance since leaving it to focus on VM?
Boy. At this point, right this second, in the recording of this audiobook, it's amazing to me how much of my DNA is really spread through VaynerMedia, as it was with Wine Library. You know, obviously my brother AJ's involved, the executive teams that have been with us for 5 or 6 years now. Look, I just got done saying that I'm the LeBron, the Jordan, the Kobe. You know, look what happened to the Bulls when Jordan left, right? Look what's going to happen to the Lakers. I mean, look what's happening to the Lakers now that Kobe's not as great. I think there would be a massive step back. I mean, I just think it would. First of all, let's just be real. Like, I think we talk about these things theoretically. Of course there'd be a step back. Think about the mindset of my brother. He just lost his brother. Like, there'd be a lot of crap. But like taking it more in theory for everybody, I think every leader and CEO's job is to establish its company to be able to deal with things if they got hit by a bus, right? That's the move. I think I have it harder because no question, a lot of my energy and charisma and who I am is a driver for my business's success. It's just the truth. You know, I feel like this is a very egotistical chapter, but it's just the way it is. Maybe my own ego got bruised here. I was pleasantly surprised how well Wine Library did with my transition to VaynerMedia. I have a funny feeling I'd be even more surprised and pleasantly with what would happen with VaynerMedia. I also plan on not running VaynerMedia my whole life. So we're going to find out. I think the fact of the matter is, as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more successful, I've been more at peace within my own skin, which has allowed me to take my ego out of the equation, which has allowed me to deploy more infrastructure around me because I don't want and don't have the need anymore to feel like I'm the only thing that's keeping it up, something that I did have to have in the 20s when I was establishing myself against my dad in the market. I mean, that's just real talk. And so I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at establishing these companies to be able to survive without me. And I think the next 2 or 3 that I do, when I look back at the 5 or 6 that I've operated, which is kind of where I think it's going to end up, I fully expect the New York Jets as a business organization to be better off when I pass away at 120 than it was when I was running it at 120.
Would you be able to lead any type of company? Do you think leaders can switch industries easily?
I really get excited about this thought. I think I'm massively capable of running any business right now that is doing $750 million a year revenue and below. I think I've proven that to myself, even though Vayner's only a $100 million run rate business. I just can taste it now. I can just taste it. So 750 and below, all of them. B2B, B2C, I got it. With my investing, with my clients, and with my 2 experiences as a CEO, I'm very much ready for that. So you start getting into, can I run Under Armour or Nike or Pepsi or Coke? You know, these 16, 20, 50, Apple, they're different. They're international. That's a new thing that I'd have to deal with. But for the most part, I think yes. For the most part, I think yes. Even those things, it was funny, as I was trying to like deploy some level of humility, my brain was like, you can do that. And so thank you, brain. And thank you, mom, for brainwashing. So yes, as long as I had 5 years to pull it off, meaning I need 12 to 24 months to calibrate a marketplace. So I would never take a job to be the CEO of a company that needed quick results in an industry that I didn't understand. I would definitely take over a company that had 2 to 3 years of clear sailing, enough money in the bank, wasn't being disrupted, because by then I would learn it. I learned on the job so quickly. I mean, I knew nothing about the agency industry and built one of the fastest growing digital social agencies of all time because I learned on the job really well. And so give me a 3-year run rate, and I think I can run any company in the world. And because I want to make this book more about you than me, that's an important thing. Are you the kind of operator that can learn on the job and then put yourself in a position to succeed? See what I said? I wouldn't take one that was in trouble if I didn't know it because I knew I wouldn't bring enough experience to it and the time would close on me and I'd lose. If you're that kind of person, go put yourself in those kind of positions. If you're somebody that can study something for 6 months and be prepared or have done it or can only do things that you've done before, do that. This is about self-awareness as an operator, and that's how you make great decisions in your career.
Would you be willing to sacrifice your ethics for a business win?
Yes, from 1975 until 1990. And that's why I give my dad so many props. And I've obviously, talked about this ad nauseum. We just spoke about it. At this point, no. And because my dad taught me right, and by then I had success, and there was really no reason to do that anymore. At some level, once you get to a certain place, like why? Why would you tarnish your legacy? First of all, when I get audited, truly, financially and legacy-wise, people will realize how little I cared about money. I've left already staggering amounts of money in my own mind, in my career, because I care about my legacy, my narrative. I mean, this book is called AskGaryVee. Clearly, I care about me. Like, I want my great-great-grandchildren to think they have the greatest great-great-grandfather of all time. That romance of story. Maybe back to the Walt Disney stuff. Maybe I'm doing it on myself. Maybe, Jesus, I'm learning things. Maybe I'm the character Jesus, actually, I just had a really funny moment. Maybe I'm the character that I'm building up. I am now 360 in the other direction. I'm now ultra careful of anything I do, even by proxy, by relationship. I've had endorsement deals that I'm like, what if in 4 years that's a bad thing? Like, I'm like scared crapless. I've even thought about the liquor business. I'm like, what if in 100 years liquor's bad? Like, I'm like, it's unbelievable how much at this point do I care more about the ethics and legacy, and how does it reflect on me is so important to me right now. It's long game mentality. And so short-term business wins are just about short-term money. Short-term money is not interesting to me and really never has been.
I want to encourage all people to do what I did and leave a very secure job to pursue their dream. But will my employee retention rate drop? Has yours dropped since you started building up your personal brand?
This is a really cool question for many reasons, because I've been dealing with it a lot at VaynerMedia, because people are so inspired by what I'm doing. I'm actually forcing some to go and do their dream and do their own thing. Yeah, I mean, look, but that's the best lack of retention. Like, if I look at my retention numbers and they've spiked, but then I look at the data and it shows me that 6 of them went on to do their dream or got inspired by me, that makes me feel nice. I have no interest in winning at somebody else's expense. I want to win with employees that stay with me for 30 years because I gave them exactly what they wanted. Not everybody wants to be the CEO or become a human Mickey Mouse or be on the Mount Rushmore of business people or have all that pressure of being a number one and providing for their family. They want their insurance taken care of by a company. They want to be able to go on vacation in December, not if there's an issue and you've got to deal with it, like, that kind of stuff. So for me, if you want your employees to go and live their dream, first of all, you're a great person and good for you. Number 2, you're going to learn something. 97% of people are not interested in taking the risk to do something of their own, which leaves most of the world available for you to have great employees and do right by them. I mean, I've even had employees mad at me because I've seen a sparkle of opportunity for them that they haven't seen in themselves, and they weirdly think I'm trying to push them out. And that's been cool as they've come to realize that they've had it. And that's legacy, right? That's somebody coming back to you in 7 years, or that's that person's kid sending me an email saying, my mom told me about the story about how this business started that I'm now taking over. And I just want to thank you. Guys, this is how I live my life. I live my life for the email that I'm going to get in 2039. Because when I wrote Crush It, it allowed me to get those emails every day. This book, this audiobook is written strictly for those moments. One answer that you've listened to can unlock your future, and I'm greedy enough emotionally to do that because I want to get that email that says thank you. I like it. And so retention is important, but the context around the retention is even more important. If you're losing employees because they hate your guts or they hate the company, that's one thing. If you're losing employees because you've inspired them to go live their best life, that means you're going to acquire more employees than you could have ever dreamed of. These employees that I go and help inspire or set up for success are going to only lead to thousands of people wanting to work for me because they know what kind of man I am.
How important is failure?
Massively important. I mean, this doesn't take me to answer this question. I think some of these questions are uniquely me. This is probably uniquely everybody. Everybody knows that failure is the game. And what I mean by the game is if you're a real winner, you are oftentimes more driven by the nature of failing. Fear of failing, is so incredible to winners. And so I think back to my first business failure. I bought a table at a baseball card show. This is an incredible story. This is a story I haven't told often, so let me get settled in. This is what audiobooks are for. 8th grade. Jason Riker and John Churchak. I didn't even think I'd remember John Churchak's name. Look at that on the top. Jason Riker, John Churchak. If you know those two names, make sure they say hello to me. If anybody who's listening to this knows where those two guys are, tell them to hit me up. They were my first business partners. We started a baseball card business. Jason Riker and I were in 8th grade, John Churchak in 7th. We were legit. We were doing this. We were with John Churchak's mom driving to the Phillipsburg Mall to buy our first table ever in my life to get a table. And we're going to buy a table at the Phillipsburg Mall for this weekend show. We're going to miss Friday because we're in school, we're kids. But Saturday and Sunday, we're going to make it up. And the whole ride, we're debating, how much do you think a table is? Because we're going to meet the promoter. We've never done this before. And I remember saying, if it's more than $50 a table, we're out. And my friends were even like, yeah, that might be too much. So we get there. We ask for the promoter. this enormous King Kong Bundy-like man comes out. This guy was a beast, like just a monster. I'm gonna add bullcrap to it now. It felt like he had mustard on his teeth. Like he was one of those, comes out. As you can imagine, I'm the spokesman. And I go, sir, how much is a table? First, do you have a table? Because we didn't know. Yes, I have some tables. Sir, how much for the table? $150. We'll take it, I say. Jason Riker and John Trczek literally looked like they saw a ghost. I shake the guy's hand. We walk away. It all happened in 38 seconds. We're walking back. They're looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? What are you doing? And I said, it's on me. It's on me. Anyway, we get there. That first Saturday, we do no business. And we're just so scared about our huge loss. That Sunday might have been the day I learned hustle. There was literally no shot for me not to make that money that day. I worked the floor, meaning I walked to every other dealer and tried to sell them stuff. I just went crazy and had a massive Sunday, which was not as busy as Saturday in the mall, and made my money back, made the table money back, made us money. We all made money. It was a tremendous lesson because it was a loss at first. That Saturday night, I even talked to my dad, which I'd never talked to at that point because he hadn't dragged me into the liquor store there. And I remember my dad, I don't give my dad credit. This is actually something else he said. And wow, I've not told this story either. My dad said, and at this point, I'm scared of my dad. At this point, my dad's scary. He's mean. I never see him. And when I do see him, it's bad. And he's a negative dude and it's just bad. So I'm scared crapless to tell my dad I made a mistake in business. And he looks at me and this is what's great about my dad. My dad is amazing at adversity. When things are good, he's not great. But when things are bad, he's a hero. And he looks at me and goes, it's a great experience. It's worth the money and the experience. And it made me feel good. And I'm getting a little emotional now because I have not really thought about that moment in a long, long time. It made me feel good. And it probably inspired me to be very successful that next day because I didn't want that L on my resume. Failures are very good, my friends. You want losses. I still want them. I sometimes think that I subconsciously create them to keep everything in balance. Losses are very important. If you didn't have losses, you wouldn't know what a win is.
How do you celebrate big victories?
I want to apologize to everybody that works at VaynerMedia. I know that you've worked at agencies that when they win a big piece of business, there's parties, there's company-wide celebrations, they buy the products from the company and do parties. We are so bad at it. And I feel like I forced AJ into this culture, so I'm not even going to say we. I am so bad at this. I don't know why. Maybe it's the way I cheer for the Jets, which is, the wins emotionally are so much less exciting than the losses are painful. Maybe it's winner mentality. Honestly, I'd be lying if I didn't think it's winner mentality. I think it's winner mentality I also think it's my responsibility to worry about the losses more than get excited about the wins. The answer to this question really sucks, which is I don't. Maybe I do quietly in my head for 4 seconds, but most of all, I'm letting my teams down, and I'm going to really try. I'm using this as a call to action. Everybody at VaynerMedia who actually listen to this, please email me right now and say, hey, you said you do a better job with this, because I know between now and you listening to it, I'm not going to fix it. I just know it. It's really ingrained in me, but I do want to get better at it because it's not fair. Just like I don't judge people, it's not fair to impose the way I celebrate victories on my people who really do need that, who are grinding, who, I'm just doing a poor job with this. And I really hope this question, this answer, me reading this out loud, me talking about it, inspires me. Though this was asked on the show and it didn't inspire me, I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. And the answer is I don't. And if I do, it's really the weakest thing that I do in my life. My celebration of victories is, at this point, unacceptable.
Hey everybody, it's Alex D. Simone. I handle business development for Gary, and I'll be reading the next few questions in the AskGaryVee book. So bear with me, because I tend to mumble. With such a busy schedule and so many obligations, how do you find the time to focus, be nice to people, and stay in the moment?
If I remember this question right from the show, it was one of the biggest compliments I've ever gotten. Especially now that Daily V is out. I know D-Rock is probably forcing the narrative of me being a nice guy and being in the moment, but it's just kind of what I am. I don't really know if I can take any real credit for this. I think this is my natural DNA. I think I love people, so that helps. I don't want to let people down. I don't want to be sitting in front of you looking at my phone the whole time and not giving a crap about you. It's easy to stay in the moment. Being nice, I think, is ingrained and probably at some level a choice. Even though it's ingrained in me, I could feel myself making it happen, forcing it at times because I think it's so powerful. I don't know. To me, there's no other choice. I think if you don't understand the essence of this question, then you really need to think about if you even want to be in the people business. I think back to putting yourself in the best position to succeed. I often argue to a lot of friends, whether they're heavily introverted or they genuinely don't like people or they don't like interactions or they don't have patience for people. I always tell them you should be working with numbers and machines or for yourself. If you've made the decision to work with human beings, you've got to know that they're complicated and have a lot of things going on. And for me, it's just been so easy to go there because I love people, and I couldn't imagine being mean to somebody. I mean, I couldn't imagine that. And so the truth is, it's my DNA. I think it's valuable, but I think that trying to level this up of not about me, how can this help somebody that's listening? I'd like you to really debate that if you don't like it, then why are you putting yourself in, why are you a salesman if you don't like people? Why are you building a social network if you don't like people? This is the great, stunning misnomer of Mark Zuckerberg. I think his understanding of people and his love for people is so great. It's what helped him build the great social network of our time. And so that's how I hope you see it. That's what I want you to take out of this question. Self-evaluate. And if you're not about the people, if you're not capable of being nice and paying attention and all those things, well, then maybe you should be doing something else.
When it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered?
I would love to be remembered as somebody who gave more than he took. I'm very into that. This whole 51-49 thing I talk a lot about. You know, one of the things that many of you who know me well know is I basically live my life for one event, which is my funeral, right? Like, so much of my actions are predicated on stunning my children and grandchildren on how many people actually showed up to your funeral. I think a funeral is a stunningly interesting event. Are people willing to, the busiest people, the most successful people, the people that are sick or old, that can't, like, for all the people that can't make it, who's going to go out of their way to be there to pay their final respects and who's not? And I do think that a funeral is the biggest indication of who you were as a person. I really do. I really do. I don't know what else to say. And so I want to be known as the best person of all time. And that's just not even a joke. It's just an ambition that's real. And so how do I do that? One, I build a persona, which is what I'm doing. And I try to build that persona around bringing people value. What do you think this is? What do you think the show is? And so I want to be remembered as somebody who brought so much value and who brought more value to that person brought to me, that no matter what they're doing on the day they find out that I died, that they will stop their kids' graduation, their biggest vacation ever, the number1 business meeting they've ever had, and if they don't show up, they don't close it, the Jets Super Bowl, whatever it is, that I brought so much value that they had to cancel that thing and schlep to the East Coast, probably New York or New Jersey, to come to my funeral. That's what I want to be remembered for. Quick side note, if you're a psychiatrist or somebody that can answer this for me, I love the climb, right? That's why I love the Jets so much. They still haven't won, right? I love the climb. I think that I backed into this funeral thing because it's a climb that I'll never be able to fully climb. The cool thing is, I'm living my entire life for this event that I won't know the outcome of, the ultimate climb.